nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hey everyone, how's everything going? Lucas Navarrete for a quick Q&A here on the Managerial Madrid podcast. I'm hoping that everything's going fine over there. Let me just set everything up. I'm gonna publish a tweet saying that I'm live real quick, and then I'll get back to you. Sorry for this brief interruption. Hoping that the audio is good. Please let me know in the chat if the audio is any good, because I kind of changed some settings. I realized that the audio was sounding pretty terribly the last few times, and hopefully it's working way better now. I don't know what was going on before. I think we had some issues with the audio a month ago or something like that, and me trying to solve it, I think I tweaked something and actually made it a lot worse. So, yeah. Let me just check real quick. All good, saying on chat. Is that Indiana Pacers jersey? Yes, it is. I'm supporting the Pacers on Game 7. Ethical hoops up all the way. Okay, you people keep saying that the audio is good. Hoping it's better than last time. I'll check after the show. Yeah, I know, Ural. Hello, Ural, Tuzo, BR, Real Jetty, Mohammed Al-Mandari, Sami, Harvey, Patrick Odayafori. Hoping you guys are good. Let me just if you want and you have some questions already ready to for me to reply and answer them. I don't know how we could like highlight them on chat so I don't forget. Well, you can write it on the chat, and maybe I'll scroll later on and see if I can get all of them. On Patreon we have 7 questions already for us to get going, really. So we'll start taking those, and then I'll get to your questions on chat later on. Fuego says he's a Sonics fan from Seattle. Fuck OKC. Pardon my language. I agree. F OKC, I don't like them at all. They obviously took care of my Nuggets. I didn't enjoy the way they took care of my Nuggets. And I also have sympathy for the Seattle Supersonics. I have a very good friend of mine lives in Seattle, and yeah, obviously the city is not happy with the way business was handled when they kind of took away the Supersonics from them. Okay, first question comes from BR. Well, it's not the first question. I think it's actually the last question, but we'll get it first since it's the first comment showing on the Patreon post. BR says, "Hi Lucas, happy to see you're doing Q&As. I think I speak for many when I say we love to hear from you. Thanks a lot, BR. It's true that I'm not very active when it comes to these live videos, but hopefully more will be coming. At least if Kian is still covering the games in the US, if Real Madrid still manage a way to obviously make their way into the last stages of the tournament, I'll keep doing a few of these videos." BR keeps saying, what's one transfer that never happened but shaped the club anyway because of what it said about who we are? PS, love the Madrid mornings. Keep up the great work in Ala Madrid. Thanks, BR. Thanks a lot for your support and your encouragement. I'm not sure I actually got the spirit of the question. One transfer that never happened but shaped the club anyway because of what it said about who we are. Ooh, I didn't prepare for this question, really. what transfer that never happened but shaped the club anyway because of what it said about who. I think Real Madrid have been pretty established about who they are in world football and all that. So I don't know what transfer that didn't happen actually shaped the club anyway. I can tell you transfers that happen and actually build the club and help the club transform the way it is today. But one that didn't happen and shape the club anyway, it's tough for me. It's tough for me to find one. Patrick says on chat, Pogba. Did it shape the club though? Did it say something special about who Real Madrid are? I couldn't go as far as saying that, the Pogba transfer or lack of thereof actually shaped the club. It's a good, missed transfer, which actually proved that Real Madrid were still willing to improve their team and all that. A lot can be said about, the likes of Pogba, Totti in the past, early 2000s. Totti is a good one, I feel like. Real Madrid were pursuing Totti very hard and very strongly. Ultimately, that transfer didn't happen because Totti refused and decided to stay with Roma. I think Totti is a good one. Let me go with Totti, I think. Maybe I like Totti better than Pogba for this hypothetical question. Fuego says 65 viewers and only 12 likes. Get those likes up. Yes, please, guys. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel. That will help us a lot down the road. That's kind of the only way for us to keep growing inside YouTube's algorithm. So if you can do that, please do. I'll stick to Totti. I think Totti is my final answer here. It's true that Real Madrid didn't need Totti, but ultimately the team pursuing and chasing Totti in the transfer window actually, sent a message that, this is still a team that is taking everything, every single transfer, every single player and every single goal very seriously. Let me keep sending those questions on chat, guys. I promise I will get to them. Let me just finish the Patreon ones real quick. We still have 6 to go there. Hopefully this conversation is still. The questions are pretty good, so I'm pretty sure that we'll get a healthy and an interesting debate out of this. Alexander Lidmark says, Why does Florentino Perez want the Super League? Is it because they see difficulties ahead competing for the best players with English clubs and state-owned clubs? There is no point with a closed league. That's the Super League. It will only be like North American sport leagues. There is no true competition, but focus on consumerism and entertainment. Agree? Can the Club World Cup be an alternative to the Super League? Is the Super League project buried or is still alive? Take care. The general question about the Super League. My opinion is that the Super League is pretty dead. It's pretty buried already, and the emergence of the Club World Cup has probably eased Florentino's concerns about the future of football, right? I think he's been very happy and very vocal about how the world of football needed this Club World Cup, and I think I agree with him. I obviously didn't. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I didn't like the Super League project. I was very vocal about this. Mainly, I didn't like it because, it was designed to get rid of the Champions League. And that's something I just don't like. I would have rather get rid of the domestic leagues rather than the Champions League. But I think that Super League project is buried and pretty deep underground. So yeah, let me get this super chat from Ural Desai. Hey Lucas, how's it going? Love the Madrid morning segment. Thank you, man. Hopefully, I try to keep them short so that it's easy for people to consume without them being very deep in terms of analysis and all that. I think it's pretty good to summarize what went on during the games. The question from him is, do you like someone like Courtois, brutally honest, or someone with more diplomacy? Look, it's true. It's true that Courtois should get a little bit of media training. In some instances, his comments can be controversial and kind of definitely hurt the team in like helping the media create controversies and false narratives around the club. So in this particular instance, I have no problem. Like, again, it's like brutal. It's brutal honesty from him. Like, I agree with what he said, but it's true that he could like find a better way to say what he wants to say without those messages and those sentences being as controversial as they are. It's happened a few times in the past. It's also true that, it isn't for him to say that Real Madrid made and committed a quote unquote stupid penalty the other day. Stupid is too harsh a word, man, towards a teammate, in my opinion. I mean, I can say it. Everyone in the chat can say it. Even Xabi Alonso can say it. But, Courtois, at the end of the day, is Raúl Asencio's teammate. Using the word stupid penalty, I know he didn't actually name Asencio, but Asencio is the one player who made the penalty, right? So, and I know that like the adjective stupid wasn't directed towards Asencio, but rather than the penalty. But yeah, I feel like he could get a bit of media training in order to avoid being so controversial with his statements. I feel like there are ways for him to stay as honest as he's been in recent years without being as controversial. You can be honest without being as controversial as he's been in years or months past. So I'm kind of in between. I like the fact that he's being honest, but on the other hand, I could possibly see that he needs a bit of media training in order not to be as controversial. All right, next question from Patreon. Keep them questions coming on chat. I'll get to them as soon as I finish this Patreon round. Frederick Rantequito says, I know Xavi had the worst conditions going into this job with a squad riddled with injuries, players out of form and mentally exhausted after a long season, having no preseason and the first game being a competitive one after a few days of training, but still I was hoping to see something new, but it felt like any random Carlo Ancelotti game from last season. Rodrigo starting, Tchouaméni going to center back, and Lucas Vázquez coming in to save the day. Do you think we have any chance of winning the Club World Cup with the squad we currently have available? Any chance is too strong for me. Like, of course, Real Madrid have a chance to win the tournament. Should they be considered the favorites? Probably not. Probably not. I think we still saw that the team has some deficiencies and some glaring needs that should be solved. In my opinion, the biggest one of them being a creative midfielder. I said this on Twitter. I don't know if you guys agree or not. To me, it's quite obvious that the midfield line needs a creative midfielder with great passing ability on the field, or at least have that profile available in the roster. Right now, the one player who could resemble to that kind of profile is Ceballos. I'm not entirely sure about Ceballos' future in the club. It's strange that he didn't get any minutes the other day. I know there's been some controversy about, him being labeled as the mole who leaks the lineups to the press each and every game on Twitter. Don't believe what you see on Twitter. But I'm not entirely sure about Xabi Alonso's ideas about Ceballos in the squad. People keep mentioning Arda. CK on the chat says, can Arda take that role? I think offensively he can. Michael also mentions Arda. Offensively, he can. I'm worried a bit about his defensive instincts and his body type, really. Offensively, against a very low block and against very defensive-minded opposition, like the other day when Al Hilal kind of refused to create chances and go after the win, I think he can be that player. Him starting on the midfield against elite opposition as a midfielder where defensive instincts are needed, a certain type of physicality is needed. I'm not entirely sure if he is that player right now. He can learn and develop to be that kind of player in the future, but right now I'm not entirely sure he's the answer for that profile I'm kind of advocating for. So we'll see. It's true that the market is completely thin for that kind of player and that kind of profile I'm talking about. So it's tough. It's tough because I think Real Madrid desperately need a player like that. At least in the squad, maybe not in the starting lineup, but definitely in the squad. A player capable of creating chances from the midfield line instead of relying so much on the offensive line. Okay, we have 4 more questions. Martin says, if Vinicius keeps performing like he has in the past 6 months, is it time for him to lose the circled in starter status? We are about to give him a massive new contract, and in the past 6 months, his performances have been horrible, he says. I'm not a fan of the Vinicius situation. I'll be honest, I'm concerned. I'm worried. I just am. I don't believe there should be circled, how does Martin say it? Circled in starter players. But at the end of the day, this is Real Madrid are for sure players like Vinicius and Mbappe and Bellingham and Courtois, now Alexander-Arnold, are going, Valverde as well, are players who are going to start if they're healthy. This is the way Real Madrid works. This is the way the whole Real Madrid sphere works in terms of the media, the fans, and all that. So we know that Vinicius is not going to lose his starting job, right? We know this. Well, I have a thread here. I need to cut it later. You have to hope that he picks it up and he improves his commitment, his form, and everything. His hunger, even. He's lost some of this hunger that made him great in the first place, like more than a year ago. He's satisfied about his role and his current status in world football, and it shouldn't be that way after what happened in the Ballon d'Or, right? I mean, he admitted, and he said otherwise. He said he was going to work 10 times harder to kind of win the Ballon d'Or and regain that status, and that definitely hasn't translated to the field. So his decision making is poor. I'm not even sure anymore if it's a problem and a matter of confidence instead of actually losing motivation and hunger. I hate mainly because I know that most of you guys are probably just don't care about the NBA at all. It reminds me a little bit to what happened to Jamal Murray after winning the title with Denver. And it's an easy comparison for me because I obviously root for the Denver Nuggets as well. And he's a frustrating player for me as well, similar as Vinicius. He's a very important player. Both Jamal Murray and Vinicius Jr. are extremely crucial for their teams. Yet, for the last few months, they kind of refused to show that hunger, that level of desperation and urgency, commitment even. So You have to hope. I have to hope that both players pick it up. And you definitely on chat at least have to hope that Vinicius picks it up. Hopefully, if you care a little about me, you have to hope that Jamal Murray picks it up as well. So yeah, Vinicius has lost some of this spark and effort and commitment and sense of urgency, in my opinion. In the past few months, I thought it was a matter of confidence because it made sense to me that he lost, that he was having a hard time after the Ballon d'Or. That's what made sense to me. Now, looking at him playing, I worry more about the lack of spark, fire, hunger from him than it being a matter of him being like, quote unquote, depressed or sad or lacking confidence. I think it's a matter of him being satisfied at this point. So hopefully Xabi Alonso improves this situation and lets him know that, you know, he needs to pick it up and he needs to work hard in order for Real Madrid to be successful, really. He's a crucial player. I think the Jamal Murray analogy is a great one. So, yeah. I don't know if I have answered the question. I have talked a little about Vinicius. But let's be honest, guys, he's not going to lose his starting spot. End of the conversation. The conversation ends there. He's not going to lose his starting spot. So, you either wait for him to pick it up, or you get rid of him. I would give him time. Maybe next summer, if we are having the same conversation 12 months from now, you probably need to part ways with him. Because he's not going to lose his starting spot. Let's be like totally honest, guys. Let's be real here. He's not going to lose his starting spot. Next question, Patrick Ordayafari. He says, "Hi Lucas, I hope you're doing well. I still think Madrid need to do more business after the Club World Cup. Amen." He keeps saying, with Modric leaving and Jude missing the beginning of the season with an injury, I think Madrid need to bring in another central midfielder. I love the profile of Angelo Stiller. Someone who can play deeper and progress the ball through the lines more naturally than the midfielders we have now. Also, I think in addition to a left back, we should add another center back. Can't rely on the health of Alaba, Militao, or Rudiger to some extent. And Asensio is still not top level quality. Thoughts on this? So, market. I do agree. I've said it already. I do agree about the midfield part. Let me say that I do like Angelo Stiller as a profile. Real Madrid, for whatever reason, says that believe that he's not worth as much as Stuttgart want to get from him. This is the market we have right now. Stiller would be ideal to me because he would not be an undisputed starter from the get-go. He would have to work hard to get that spot. And on the other hand, I also think his profile would be very useful. So Stiller would be a perfect signing, in my opinion. It's not like you're signing Wirtz and spending 120 million for Wirtz and knowing that Wirtz is going to be an undisputed starter and you must find a way to start him alongside all these other stars. Right? Stiller doesn't need that kind of role if you sign him. So I think that's a perfect profile for Real Madrid. Other than that, left back. I'm worried about Carreras, man. I don't think he's worth 50 million. I think he would be an upgrade over Mendy and over Fran Garcia. Sure, fine. 50 million. It's rough. It's rough for me. I have not seen enough from him to believe that he is a 50 million euro player. Again, I acknowledge, I do admit that he would be an upgrade over Fran Garcia and over Ferland Mendy, both. So the team could improve with him on the field. Fine. 50 million, I mean, it's not my money, sure. We shouldn't care much about transfer fees Real Madrid pay. It's not our money. As long as it's an improvement, it's not our money. But, whoa, 50 million for Carreras. it's risky. I mean, it's a lot, man. It's a lot, especially when you see Teo Hernandez going for 28. I'm not saying Carreras is not better than Teo Hernandez. I'm not saying Teo is better than Carreras, but are they 25 million euros apart? I wouldn't say so. So, and I know the Teo situation. Like, I know Teo's fee was 28 because his contract expires next summer, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, Real Madrid could get their hands of Teo as well. So, yeah. CK on chat about this question. He says 25 to 30 for Grimaldo or 50 for Carreras. I would go for Grimaldo. That's just me. I'm not convinced about signing Carreras for 50 million. And I know I know this opinion is different from Ian, probably. I think we talked about this, and he's confident about Carreras' ability to be a very impactful signing for Real Madrid, even if the fee is a little bit overpriced. But to me, that's too much. And another center back to wrap up Patrick O'Daifaris' question. I don't think that's needed. Because Rudiger will be back soon. The last report we got from Marca today indicates that Rudiger... Who else? Let me just check real quick. It was Rudiger for sure. Carvajal, I believe. Hold on. Carvajal, Militao. Ah, no, it wasn't Rudiger. So it was Carvajal, Militao, and Alaba will not be allowed to play a lot in this Club World Cup because Real Madrid are not convinced about the quality of the grass in the United States, and believe that there's certain risk if you play them in the Club World Cup. So yeah, that's our report from Marca. It's obviously not official. It's not something we should still take this report with a grain of salt. Still, I don't think you can have. Hold on. Let me just count real quick. You would have Alaba, Militao, Rudiger, Asensio, and Huijsen as center backs. 5 center backs in one roster, right? It's not too bad considering that I don't think Alaba will be able to contribute much. Well, you have 5 now. If you sign another one, you would have 6. 6 is too much. 5 is okay. 6 is too much, in my opinion. So you have 5 and Tchouaméni's ability to play as a center back, even though that's obviously not ideal. Because I don't think Tchouaméni is a great center back. It's funny how I did wondered whether or not Tchouaméni's future as a player was as a center back instead of as a defensive midfielder, but definitely not anymore, in my opinion. So yeah, 6 center backs will be a bit too many for my taste. So I say no about signing another center back. Let me get this super chat from Mo Limits 2. Are we killing Endrick if we don't send him on loan? I do think so. I do think Endrick needs to leave on a loan deal. No panic whatsoever here. I'm not saying we should stop believing in Endrick's potential. I'm not saying we should try to find offers to sell Endrick. Nothing like that. But it will be very tough for him to get minutes in Real Madrid. And it's true that he would have probably started against Al Hilal the other day had he not been injured. Because Gonzalo at the end of the day started when Mbappe wasn't available. So I realized the fact that Endrick is probably going to be the undisputed starter whenever Mbappe isn't available. But you cannot keep a young player on a roster banking on Mbappe getting injured. And Mbappe isn't going to rotate much just because he's Mbappe. I mean, maybe Xabi Alonso wants to do some rotations and implement like a rotation-heavy policy, and Ancelotti didn't, but Mbappe isn't going to rotate much out of the lineup, so I would send him all now, especially after signing Mastantuono. Before the Mastantuono deal, I could be talked into keeping Mbappe. Not Mbappe, obviously, Endrick. But now that Real Madrid have signed Mastantuono, I think it makes sense to send Endrick out on loan. No, Patrick, Hello, Patrick. We haven't talked about Nico Pat's situation, so I will keep this question here and take it after I finish with the Patreon ones. 2 left. Eros Elizondo says, "You're a Real Madrid legend." That's yeah, I read this hypothetical. Kind of made me think a little. Okay, Eros says, "You're a Real Madrid legend that's retiring after a long stint at the club. You have every Real Madrid player that's ever played for the club and every manager available. What position are you playing? Who is the manager? And who are the other 10 players for your testimonial match? Also, players in their prime." So, I'm assuming he doesn't want, like, Eros wants me to say I'm Lucas Navarrete, a Real Madrid legend, right? He doesn't want me to say, okay, I'm Toni Kroos, right? So if I were to be a Real Madrid legend retiring after a long stint, I would play as a defensive midfielder, which I also think is kind of the weakest position in Real Madrid history in terms of best 11. So I get the defensive midfielder spot. Okay, every Real Madrid player. Okay, so best 11 now and best manager. Well, not best, but my favorite, I guess. The ones I want to play with in a hypothetical historical testimonial, and I get each again every Real Madrid player that's ever played for the club. They don't have to be like played together in the past or anything like that. So I get Courtois as a goalkeeper. I get Arbeloa under right back just because. Let's get Carvajal. I was going to say Arbeloa because, you know, of his commitment in the Mourinho years. He was always a favorite of mine just because of that and his loyalty to the club during the Mourinho years. I always liked Arbeloa, even though he was obviously very limited as a football player. He was fine as a defensive right back. I will remind you of that. But Carvajal, I will go with Carvajal. I will go with Ramos and Pepe. I will go with Marcelo, myself as a defensive midfielder, Modric and Kroos playing alongside me, which makes my job really easy. Cristiano Ronaldo on the left, Benzema on the up front, and I will put Raúl out of position on the right wing, just because of it being a testimonial and not needing any kind of tactical awareness in that regard. So yeah. Okay, last question from Patreon, and then I'll get to your questions on the chat. Rana Alamgir says, "Hello, Lucas. I hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather. Do you believe?" No, I'm not enjoying it, Rana. No, we are in yellow alert for heat and hot temperatures today in Valencia. It's 35 degrees Celsius right now outside. Obviously, I have my air conditioning on in the house, but yeah, I'm not enjoying it. Do you believe that Vinicius Jr. has a lower football IQ? Okay, more Vinicius. Do you believe that Vinicius Jr. has a lower football IQ compared to other elite players like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi? While he possesses exceptional skills, it appears that his decision-making abilities are not at the same level as those of the top players. I would say so, definitely. Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi are one of ones. It's just, he's definitely not on that same level. Not only because of his IQ, by the way. We are not going to ever see player in our lifetime. We are not going to see players like Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi ever again. It's just that simple. And so yeah, he doesn't belong in the same conversation. If you want me to expand on Vinicius' decision making and his IQ on the field, I will say that that's an area where he needs to improve. After his first few years in Madrid, we thought he had finally improved a lot in that department. And he had, actually. For 2-3 years, he was really good with his finishing, with his decision-making. But now he's lost it. Or at least he's lost a bit of it. He's not as poor as he was before he took that leap. I will say that. But he's definitely not as great as he was in the past either. So yeah. Going back to what I said like 20 minutes ago, you just cross your fingers and hope that he finds his groove and his good form again, because unless you decide to sell him, you're stuck with him. Okay, that's everything from Patreon. Let me just scroll up here and take. While I do this, by the way, I will not be able to read the chat live. So, yeah. Why aren't we in for Zubimendi? Sammy says, why aren't we in for Zubimendi? We don't have a controller and it's horrible to watch. I do think that it would be better to sign a central midfielder than a pure anchor and a pivot. Zubimendi made sense. Steeler made sense. At the end of the day, if you believe the reports, Real Madrid's board believe that they have what they need in the midfield line. We'll see if that decision changes after the Club World Cup, depending on Real Madrid's results and performances in the World Cup. If Real Madrid perform and get knocked out of the competition, like in the round of 16 or quarterfinals, I could see Real Madrid talking themselves into maybe needing some more bodies in the midfield line. If they succeed, they will probably believe that it's enough. Ali says, okay, NBA question, I will take it real quick, not to bore the rest of you. In light of Lakers 10 billion, it's not an NBA question. In light of the Lakers 10 billion sales, what would Real be worth? I know they cannot be sold. That's rough. I don't know. Are Real Madrid I think they should be considered at least the most valuable sport team in the world. So if the Lakers went for 10 billion, it's not exactly like that, by the way. If you are like an NBA hardcore fan, it's not exactly 10 billion. They have some options here and there, so it's not exactly 10 billion. But the Celtics went for 6 million. I think Real Madrid could easily go for 20. If not 20, definitely 15. But yeah. Karan LF says 3 players you would like to join Madrid. Like realistic? Do I have to be realistic? Assuming I don't, I would like Haaland. I would like Vitinha, and I would like Nuno Mendes. Those 3. Those would be my favorite 3. Obviously, none of them is realistic right now in the summer of 2025. None of them. Vitinha and Nuno Mendes playing for PSG. PSG would never sell them to Real Madrid. And Haaland is not realistic with Real Madrid's current roster. So, but I wasn't asked to provide a realistic answer. Honey Badger says, hey, Lucas, can Xavi make... Oh, I'm going to show the questions on chat, by the way. Hey, Lucas, I wasn't able to do that on Patreon questions, but now I can. Hey, Lucas, can Xavi make these current midfield profiles work? If we go for a creative midfielder controller, who will get dropped from the midfield? And that's interesting because I was saying before that if you sign a player like Steeler, you don't need to make him an undisputed starter. You will not have that kind of pressure from the board, the fans, and media. So you would be fine theoretically about keep your starting lineup there as a baseline and don't make changes until it's actually glaringly obvious that you need to implement and introduce a creative midfielder in the starting lineup. And then if the player is Zubimendi or Steeler, the player who would probably go to the bench is Tchouaméni, which would be tough because Tchouaméni has improved a lot. But he would probably be the weak link and the one player going to the bench in this particular scenario if it becomes very obvious then Real Madrid need a controller on the field at all times. Next question. Okay, let me find it because I'm scrolling down the chat already. Here's Anthony Tharp. What's up, Lucas? What are your thoughts on Trent Alexander-Arnold tucking inside when we had the ball? Is that minimizing his impact passing from deeper positions? I like it. I think he's a very similar player to Marcelo. And Marcelo did just that whenever he was playing for Real Madrid in his peak. So I like it. I think that's a good way of increasing your chances of creating chances, no pun intended, through the center of the field, which is obviously the rough and the tough thing to do against low blocks. So it creates advantages. You need some width on the right wing, ideally, in order for the opposition not to be like condensed in the center. But I like it. I like that tendency he has. I think, and also the fact that Real Madrid don't have like an obvious target striker makes it like easier for me to be comfortable with Alexander Arnold's tendency to go inside and to go to the center of the field when Real Madrid have the ball. It's I'm fine with that. Obviously, with Gonzalo Garcia, maybe you could take more advantage of his aerial ability, and maybe Alexander Arnold would be better off by trying to cross the ball more often. But just when Gonzalo Garcia is the one striker on the field, which is obviously not going to be very often during the course of the entire season, even though he will likely be on the field on Sunday against Pachuca because Mbappe is not expected to be available. So AK says, do we know anything about the new creative midfielder? Is it true that Real Madrid is looking for him? Do we really need him? I do think we need him. Unfortunately, it looks like Real Madrid don't agree with me at this point in time. And don't agree with you if you also believe Real Madrid need this profile. Reports from Spain say as much. And maybe the club, I mean, the transfer window is not over. It's over for the Club World Cup. And luckily enough, like Real Madrid have a window here to experiment and make sure that Alonso has every tool he needs for this new era. But we'll see. We'll see if the club changes its mind about the midfielder. But right now, odds seem to indicate that a midfielder is not a priority for the upcoming transfer window during the rest of the summer. Next question, Mo Limits 2, your thoughts on how we manage young players like Endrick, Guller, and Masantuono. Getting them early and adapting to culture is good, but never playing is terrible. Maybe loaning some is better. In hindsight, I will say, that I would have liked Guller to be sent on loan last year. I don't think the reps he got were very valuable to him as a player. I do think that he would have improved and developed as a player a little bit more with consistent opportunity to play minutes elsewhere. Right now, it's obviously too late to make that decision, and Guller is in a different situation right now for me to say that he should go out on loan this summer. I don't think that. About Endrick, for sure. Endrick, I think, needs to go out on loan this summer just because of the fact that, the depth chart doesn't look great for him. Mastantuono is different because he has a bigger window in the right wing for him to play minutes and to fight for a spot in the starting lineup, right? So the situation for Mastantuono is different, in my opinion. I think the club's hopes of seeing Mastantuono getting consistent minutes as a starter even are higher than Hendricks. So I think Mastantuono has a decent chance of playing quality minutes this year, whereas I don't think that's the case for Hendrick. I'm not sure if this is a question. Well, I'll take it. Well, that's an opinion even. It's just Michael saying, I don't want to be like conspiracy here for you to like wonder what I was reading. Michael was saying that, will we ever rid ourselves of Vinicius? I can't wait for the day he leaves the team. We'll see what happens there. I think I've talked enough about Vinicius already. I think that I give him another year for him to show that he recovers this spark and this hunger and this urgency that I need to see from him on the field. Another year before I actually want to part ways with him. Right now, I will give him another year. I think he deserves it. No, a different conversation is about the contract extension, by the way. I think I'm waiting on that. I think I give Vinicius another year for me to pull the trigger on selling him. Right now, I am not extending Vinicius' contract. And if he's not happy about it, he needs to improve his performances on the field. It is what it is. Play better and you'll get that contract extension. You've been playing pretty terrible for the last 6 months. 8 months even. Do you think Madrid should cash in on Vinicius considering Saudi wants him and his decline mainly because of his attitude on the pitch? Again, Atef, another year. Ask me next summer. I think I give him credit. I give him another year, 12 months. Right now, my answer is no. Next year, if he keeps playing the way he's played for the last 6 months, my answer will be yes. You would have been against the start in Champions League, but this is about the Super League. It's kind of... It's an opinion against my opinion, so it's not... No, I don't think it's comparable, really. It's kind of comparable, actually. So I don't know. I wasn't even alive in that era, so I don't know what I would have thought. But right now, I can tell you I'm not a fan of the Super League project. Evan Schroeder. Oh no, Evan Schrode without the final R, not the basketball player. Thoughts on Thomas Partey as an option for the midfield? Does his profile fit the current squad needs? Arsenal seem to be willing to let him leave after the Zubimendi signing. I don't think so. I'm not a fan of his profile. I'm not a fan of his... I think he's a good player. I don't think he will move the needle much for Real Madrid. I'm not moved by the possibility of... Well, it's not a possibility, by the thought of signing Thomas Partey. No, not a player I enjoy. If I'm being honest, not a profile I think would move the needle for Real Madrid. I would go for a more creative midfielder. I realize that Thomas could be an upgrade over both Tchouaméni and Valverde in terms of creativity, but not that much, not that big of an upgrade for me to target him in the market. So yeah. Here's another one, and hi Lucas, with youth expected to be out for a few months and Modric leaving, does it make sense to sign one more midfielder, and who would you prefer? Yes, I've talked about this. This is a problem of me taking these questions later in the show. Obviously, Anand and maybe other viewers are realizing now that I took the question too late because I already answered them, but it's my fault. Keep them coming anyway. With you expected to be out for a few months and Modric leaving, does it make sense to sign one more midfielder? And yes, who would you prefer? If I'm being realistic, Steeler makes sense to me. If I'm asked about not being realistic, Vitinha is my ideal player. If I want to be like in between, not completely realistic, but not entirely unrealistic as well, Varela makes sense to me. Here's... Well, more Vinicius. Atef, do you think Xavi will be able to tame Vinicius' ego, or should Madrid cash in on him? Lack of concern, effort being disturbing. I think Xavi Alonso should be helpful, yes. You have to hope that. That's the only thing I can say. I have no idea if he will be able to do that or not. Ancelotti kind of raised him as a player, Vinicius, and had his hands full with the whole situation. So I have to hope that Alonso finds a way for Vinicius to be more committed and more having more sense of urgency. Hopefully, that's what happens. Arda, young players. Oh, this is the same question I took before. Mbappe, Gonzalo, Mastantuono. This should be exciting. Well, not that much. Here it is. Ed Richtofen. Hey, Lucas, what's more likely this season, one trophy or none for Xavi's team? Ooh. I think one trophy is more likely, even if it's just the Copa del Rey. I think it's, you have to. Even if you expect your team to have and go under some growing pains, you have to say, and you have to take Real Madrid's odds of winning at least a trophy, at least a Copa del Rey, pretty much every year. Will they do that? I don't know. If they don't, will Xavi stay? I don't know. So yeah, we'll see. We don't have to be so negative just yet. Let's give Alonso time. Let's be patient about it. I'm getting almost to the end of the chat here. If Cristiano was... this is an interesting question. I know it's kind of Michael being vocal about his frustration about Vinicius as well, but I have no problem taking this question. I think it adds a different layer to the Vinicius conversation that we haven't covered so far. Michael says, if Cristiano was booed by the home crowd, why not Vinicius? It's an interesting angle. I have been saying over the last few years that the Bernabeu crowd has changed a lot over the last decade or so. There's an argument to be made that they have changed for the better because they should always support their players. But in some instances, I think that they should demand more effort from specific players. Remember last year when Tchouaméni got whistled and booed at the Bernabeu? I think that helped him. He became a different player after that. Am I advocating for the Bernabeu crowd to whistle and boo Vinicius? No. Why are not they booing and whistling Vinicius if Cristiano was booed back in the day? It's because the Bernabeu crowd has changed. It's that simple, really. The attitude from the Bernabeu fans has changed a lot over the last 10 years. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. And again, it's not that they support the team more. It's that they are less passionate, I think. On one hand, you still have them supporting the team like crazy in these remontadas and when in very specific situations. But I think, the fact that quite possibly the Bernabeu has more a different crowd in each and every game because, tourists go there. They also went there 10 years ago, sure. But the Bernabeu has changed. The Bernabeu crowd has changed a lot, and I agree that Vinicius would have been booed and whistled 10 years ago. For sure. For sure. Cristiano got booed. As simple as that. Zidane got booed back in the day. Vinicius, in my opinion, has deserved to be whistled and booed more than Cristiano did in the past. I will say that his attitude has been more frustrating to me than Cristiano's back in the day. So, yeah. If your argument and your point says that Vinicius would have been booed 10 years ago, I agree with you. That's just a fact. It's just a fact. Another question about Vinicius. Well, this is going to be the Vinicius show. Abdullah, understandably so, by the way. Abdullah Musa says, do you think Vinicius peaked early in his career and he's not motivated enough for a new project and starting from the beginning? It's hard for me to go inside Vinicius' head and Vinicius' mindset and trying to find the reasons why he's not playing with this sense of urgency that I want, right? I don't know. Is it all because he already kind of achieved everything he wanted to achieve in Real Madrid and kind of lost his hunger and motivation? Maybe. This is what happened to Jamal Murray, in my opinion. And this is the analogy I have for Vinicius. So Maybe this is the case, but I have no idea. I will say that it's not a matter of him losing explosion or any physical ability or him declining because of his age or anything like that. No, it's just a psychological side that Real Madrid need to explore in order for Vinicius to recover and regain his best form. It's not a matter of physical decline. That's just a fact as well. Vinicius conversation on chat. Question from Javi. I assume he's from Spain or from Spanish heritage in any way. Javi. Hey Lucas, how much do you believe in starting Jude Fede in a 3 midfielder formation? Do you believe one of them needs to be dropped for a different profile? Controversial topic. I'm trying to pick my words carefully here because I know people are always very sensitive when it comes to Bellingham. Xabi Alonso said the other day that Bellingham, and this is a direct quote, he said, quote, Bellingham has the soul of a midfielder. I think I get what he was trying to say. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that statement. To me, he should be a midfielder, has the physical tools to be a midfielder, the technical ability to be a midfielder. But his true soul is one of an attacker. Whenever I say attacker, people believe I'm saying he's a pure striker, man. And this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying he's closer to being a pure number 10 than a pure number 8. Or a pure classic number 7 in the Raul role. Like secondary striker, Lautaro, Raul. Who else? Obviously that role has kind of disappeared. Del Piero. You know what I'm talking about. These players. And I'm not saying he's exactly that mold of player either, but I'm saying he's closer to that mold of player than he is to being a Toni Kroos kind of player. This is where I stand about Bellingham. Do I believe he can develop into being a Toni Kroos-like midfielder? If not, I mean, a different kind of midfielder, obviously, with a much better physical attributes, can cross the box, can score more goals and cross, but a pure central midfielder, a pure number 8. Do I believe he can become that kind of player? Sure, he's young. Right now, a 4-3-3 with Tchouaméni, Valverde, and Bellingham, I still think that formation resembles too much to a 4-2-4 than it does to a 4-3-3. This is just where I stand. It's fine if you disagree with me. It's just my opinion. You're here to listen to my opinion. You're entitled to thinking that my opinion is trash, that Bellingham is a pure central midfielder. I will disagree with you, and it's not a problem. It's fine to disagree, guys. This is the beauty of sports. It's fine to disagree. But I will die on this hill right now. Summer of 2025, Bellingham can play as a central midfielder. He can be deployed there. At the end of the day, if you put him in that spot, your formation will resemble more to a 4-2-4 than it will resemble to a 4-3-3 with balance, with cohesion in the midfield and all that. Just my opinion. When I finish scrolling down, I will read your reactions to these takes. More Vinicius. I feel I took this already. I took CK's question about Grimaldo or 54 carreras. I lean towards Grimaldo. Okay, I just reached Mo Limits super chat. Okay, so we get the fortune on Frank Garcia. Okay, Michael says we waste a fortune on a taller Frank Garcia. I think he's better than Frank Garcia. I don't think he's just taller than him. I think he's better. I do think 50 million is too much. Ancurioti Bordoloi says, when is Militao back? Apparently, if you believe the latest reports from the Spanish press, he will not play in the Club World Cup because the club is kind of unsure about whether or not he should be playing in that grass that they saw in the stadiums in the United States, especially coming off 2 ACL injuries. So yeah, it seems that he will be held off and shut down for this Club World Cup. So we'll probably see him back in the first game of the season. Whether or not he starts that game or not remains to be seen. I assume if Rudiger is available and healthy for that one, Militao will likely be given time and come off the bench for a few months. Maybe not come off the bench, but play small minutes here and there in order to improve his form and condition. I expect Huijsen and Rudiger to be the starters even when everyone's healthy. Tuzo Peter Mushi, if we stop pursuing Carreras, what other left backs do you think Madrid should go for? The market is extremely thin. Nuno Mendes is not realistic. It will be ideal, but not realistic. I said it. Theo Hernandez or Grimaldo. Cheaper options than Carreras. I'm not sure about Carreras, about spending 50 million euros on Carreras. I'm just not sure. It's a panic buy to me. It screams panic buy. Okay, Nico Paz. Patrick Wilson, I was late to the Q&A, but did anyone ask Lucas about Nico Paz's situation just yet? That being the question, the answer to that question is no. Okay, let's move on. Nah, I'm just kidding. Nico Paz. Who knows what's going to happen? Similar profile to Bellingham. I'm not entirely sure he solves that creative midfielder need that you have in the current squad. I like him as a player. I think he's not the midfielder you need. I also thought that about Wirtz as well. Now, in order for you to get Wirtz, you needed to spend more than 100 million. And if you want Nico, who at least is an extra body for the midfield line, you only need to spend 8. Doesn't hurt to have an extra body in the midfield line. I would go for it. Do I think that solves your problems in the creative midfield department? I don't. What about Diego Aguado? Is he ready for the step up? No, he's not. He's not ready to be a first team player consistently. That's just a fact. Unfortunately, Real Madrid's policy about canteranos makes it very hard for these canteranos to be contributing out of Castilla, the first year out of Castilla, for a big club like Real Madrid. It's just extremely tough. And Curiotti, is Gonzalo ahead of Hendrik in the pecking order as a substitute because of the profile when Mbappe is available? I don't think so. Well, depending on what. I think Alonso will be flexible in this. So even if Hendrik, I think, will be ahead of Gonzalo in the depth chart, if Real Madrid find a very particular, specific game where Gonzalo is needed to play 10-15 minutes off the bench because, the other Real Madrid are having very good chances of crossing the ball, or the other team is vulnerable on aerial plays, I think Alonso will trust Gonzalo or just whoever. I'm getting to the end of it. Do you agree with how Courtois is calling out Ancelotti in press conferences? I kind of took this a few moments ago. Short answer, I appreciate his honesty. He should kind of pick different words, not to be as controversial. Is new generation Madrid lacking in leadership? What is the reason behind this? I don't think that's the issue here. Right now, I think it has more to do with tactical profiles. Would you sell Vinicius or Rodrigo for Haaland? No. Should we hire Benzema as the manager? I just wouldn't be happy to say want to get a Steeler. More questions here. Okay, Javi also. Do you buy this whole Rodrigo is happy and won't leave this summer? If not, how much would he be worth and Who would pay that? That's tough. Do I think that he's looking forward to this new era and a fresh opportunity for him? I think so. Even though I think Ancelotti was very generous with the role he gave him, given the circumstances. I don't think he has a reason to complain about the way Ancelotti treated him. But, it's the start of a new era for Real Madrid, so he's hopefully hoping that, this is also a new era for him. How much would he be worth? I think 60 is the maximum you could get for him. And I know this transfer market is crazy. I think we are a summer late with this situation. I think his value is not as high as it was a year ago. Also because, the writing seems to be on the wall about him being available, so that kind of decreases the leverage you have in every negotiation. Who would pay that? Any Premier League club, really. 60 million is a good price for Premier League clubs. Sex question. Pardon me if I don't take it. Yes, Madrid will his legacy surpass Zidane's as both players? Lucas, okay. Amberale Hoops, Lucas, by the time Xavi's coaching career is done at Madrid, will his legacy surpass Zidane's as both player and coach? No. Let's be honest, that's impossible, guys. Zidane won 3 straight Champions League titles. That just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's not me being pessimistic about Xabi Alonso's new era. It's just impossible to win 3 Champions League titles, and Zidane did it. So I'm just very pragmatic. Will Xabi Alonso do it again or improve that even? No. I mean, obviously there's a scenario where he can, but the chances are very slim. So I would say that no. Okay. Javi, do you prefer Camavinga or Tchouaméni? This is an interesting question. Do you prefer Camavinga or Tchouaméni in that 6 role? I feel like Tchouaméni limits us going forward, but does great defensively. In an ideal world, you would mesh and generate a new player out of these two. Because Camavinga's technical ability on the ball is way better than Tchouaméni, whereas Tchouaméni is way more composed. His defensive instincts are better for a defensive midfielder. It's tough for me. Tchouaméni would benefit a lot from having Camavinga's passing ability. And on the other hand, Camavinga's number 6 is a bit too risky given what we saw from Camavinga last year in terms of composure inside the box, silly mistakes. Right now, I think I have to go with Tchouaméni. Whereas I think Camavinga's profile would be better for Real Madrid if Camavinga is able to reach that maturity and that composure as a player. I think his profile would fit the current midfield a little bit better than Tchouaméni, but right now Tchouaméni is more established and more polished as a player, so I go with Tchouaméni. Why do Sean? I don't know how to pronounce that last name, bro. Sean Mhotsha? I don't know if that M is supposed to be pronounced or not. Forgive me, Sean. Why do you not rate Rodrigo? I think I properly rate him. We've seen him being an undisputed starter for Real Madrid for the last 2 years, and he's underperformed. Plain and simple. Has he not underperformed, I will ask. I think it's fair to say that he has underperformed. While it's also fair to say that he kind of was the player who sacrificed the most by being deployed on the right wing. I accept that as well, but he has underperformed. So yeah, that's my answer. Okay, we have like 5 more minutes. Let me see if I get Bellingham. Is that? Oh, Bellingham being 4-2-4. Okay, let's expand on that a little bit. Neeraj Nambudiri. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Niraj. I'm sorry. Bellingham in the mid-3 resembling 4-2-4. Is that an issue with how the manager/managers asked him to play? With a more disciplined approach, would that change in time, closer to the previous generation mid-3? I don't know. I don't know what he wants. I don't know how he feels as a player whenever he's on the field. I don't know if his true nature is to score or to help the scoring department, delivering assists and all that, instead of controlling the tempo of the game, which is what you need from a midfielder in a 4-3-3, right? Especially when the other midfielder is Valverde, the other central midfielder, I will say. If the other central midfielder is Valverde, who will not create much, Valverde is another kind of box-to-box midfielder. Very intense, very physical. He can pass. He can definitely shoot from distance. But you know what I'm talking about. He's not going to control and dictate the tempo of the game, right? So if that's the other midfield you have, can Bellingham learn and improve to become that kind of player? Yes, my answer would be yes. Is he that player now? My answer is no. But again, I realize this is kind of controversial. Which webcam are you using? Okay, a question outside Real Madrid. Michael, which webcam are you using? I like the moving webcams. This is a Logitech C922. But the moving part of it, it's a software called NVIDIA Broadcast. I think it's like a filter and an option you toggle, and it kind of follows you around if you kind of move inadvertently. Can Gonzalo Garcia be effectively similar to Joselu in terms of a target man? I think so. I think he's a player we need for that role. I wouldn't sign a Budimir type of player. I think I've seen enough from Gonzalo to be comfortable with having him on the roster in this very specific context. I'm fine with Gonzalo being that player, even if he isn't actually registered for Real Madrid in La Liga. He can be registered with Castilla and be on your bench every single game. I'm fine with Real Madrid keeping Gonzalo for this role. I don't think you need to sign a Budimir type of player. Do we have any news about the Super League? No. The Super League, in my opinion, is buried underground. Patrick Wilson, do you try coming as a left wing back? If we do try and play with a back three, where do you play Vinicius there? Up front with Mbappe? His tendency would be to move to the left. I don't think the back three is an option with this kind of roster. So, I mean, no, I'm not a fan of Camavinga being a left wing. No, I'm not. My answer is no. I'm not a fan of Camavinga being deployed in that spot. He could play there as a patch if needed, with injuries, all that, if that's your system and there's no one else around. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of him being the primary option for that spot if Alonso decides to implement this system. Patrick. Okay, last question. Anwes 130. I reached the end of the questions after 1 hour and 15 minutes. Nice. What is Dani Ceballos' role in this team? I don't think Xabi Alonso knows. I don't think Ceballos knows. Ceballos said the other day that he hasn't had like the final conversation, chat / talk with Xabi Alonso about his role and what expected of him this summer, which leads me to believe that he would, like, Alonso is not very committed towards finding him a very important role in the squad, right? Which is unfortunate for Ceballos, because, this is a World Cup year and he was probably hoping to at least put his name in the conversation, considering the way he ended last year is kind of establishing himself as a starter for Real Madrid and all that. In my opinion, it doesn't seem like Ceballos is on Xabi Alonso's plans. The fact that he didn't get any minutes the other night, and the fact that both Alonso and Ceballos said, quote, "We haven't had that talk just yet," I believe he will be told to find another club. Last two questions. please don't submit anymore. Patrick's question about Gonzalo staying. Well, it's not a question really. That's the last question I'll take. We've been going for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Sam D says, what do you think of Courtois always throwing his team under the bus and always talking to media when things go wrong? On one hand, I appreciate that he puts his hands up and says, I'm going to be facing the criticism and the questions from the media, because that has been an issue in the past. So the fact that you have an established player, one of the stars of the team, being willing to address the media after tough losses, I appreciate that. About him throwing his team under the bus, again, I've said it earlier in the show, he needs to find better words that doesn't sound as controversial as the ones he's choosing. So I will say that sometimes it can be perceived as Courtois throwing the team under the bus, and it shouldn't be perceived as such. So yeah. And Patrick, lastly, I would accept Gonzalo staying on as a backup striker if the club promised to bring in Angelo Stiller. I would too. So yeah, we'll see what the club decides to do in the window after the Club World Cup, depending on the team's performances and product in the tournament. We'll see. Nislis, thank you for being here. Thank you for your words. Anyway, guys, this will be all from me today. I think we answered like many questions here. Stay tuned on the side for our coverage about the Club World Cup. We have many more shows coming your way during the rest of the tournament, the rest of the summer. I read a comment on Patreon saying that people should pay more attention to the site, because I believe there's a good coverage there for the team, that maybe sometimes in these shows we don't touch on every single topic that is discussed on the website. So yeah, make sure you visit managingmadrid.com to get our full coverage about this team. Thank you guys for being here. Drop a like if you enjoyed the show, and that will help us a lot in our coverage and keep growing to bringing you the best coverage we can bring you about this tremendously big football club. Pachuca on Sunday. Tough game for Real Madrid. They will need the 3 points. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, we see some more improvements. See you guys.